Hello. So to give some context, I have been married to my husband for 6 months. He has 2 children from 2 different, uninvolved, mothers and they live with us full time. The kids are 7 years and 10 years, I work long hours and it's a demanding job time-wise. My husband thinks that just because I WFH that I can pause whenever, but it's untrue. He'd ask me to do things for the kids or him during work hours, but I told him I'm working and unavailable during those hours, and that the kids are his responsibility till I'm done. Yesterday, he told me he wanted to go attend a friend's engagement dinner and asked if I could take time off work to make the kids dinner. I told him absolutely not, and insisted that he cook for them or order takeout. He said he had no time to cook, and takeout was off the table since he doesn't want them to eat fast food. He later said fine and that he was going to cook dinner then go to the party. 2 hours later, the kids came in and said they were hungry. I was puzzled. I asked if their dad cooked them dinner and they said he didn't. Moreover, he told them to come ask me to cook for them at exactly 7 p.m. I was so pissed to find myself in this situation. I took few minutes off the meeting and ordered takeout from the nearby restaurant and fed the kids, then had them watch TV then go to sleep. He came home at 11 p.m. and went off on me after he discovered that I didn't cook like he was counting on me to do. Not only that, but he yelled about feeding the kids takeout. I argued back saying I had no choice after he basically tricked me into cooking for them knowing I was busy, so I ordered food and made sure the kids were fed while I focused on work. He ranted about how I care more about work than my stepchildren, God forbid, and called me selfish then went upstairs and refused to talk to me. He's still sulking about it today and says I need to get my priorities in order, 'cause they're messed up. Am I the problem here? My wife, Sonia, is a stay-at-home mom of our 2 children. I really try to help with the kids when I get home. I know being stay-at-home mom is pretty tiring even though she has part-time off from school, but help with homework, make food and taking care of kids can be exhausting. When I get home, I make dinner, wash the dishes and stay with our children for a while so she can have her moment too. These weeks have been pretty exhausting. It is a very important month professionally. In November will be the delivery of a 6-month project that my team and I are idealizing. Last week was the final touches and review of the entire project, so I went to work at 8 a.m., got home at 5 p.m., took care of my kids until 9 p.m. and was actually working until 4 a.m. To maybe get 3 hours of sleep, I have trouble sleeping. So if I slept 12 hours in 5 days it was a lot. I was exhausted. I wasn't even driving because I didn't trust my senses to drive. I couldn't vent to Sonia, because she was stressed too. Our children had the flu. I was dragged to the hospital by my coworkers after nearly passing out for only walking. The doctor demanded that I take a week's medical leave because I was already on the verge of a burnout. When I got home, I spoke to my wife and she seemed to be understanding. I asked her to give me a day off from everything, as I would try to get as much sleep as possible that night to come back better. She said fine. I offered to also give her a day off because I know she was tired too. I went to sleep at 9 p.m. and woke up to Sonia nudging me to take the kids to school. I walk with them. I talked about what we talked about yesterday and she said, yeah, but that's your part of the morning and I have other morning plans, yoga class, gym and house cleaning. I asked her 3x more to do this for me, as I was still exhausted, 6:30 a.m., but she just said, you're still a father, tired or not. It could be tired or not, but I ended up losing my mind and screaming, I just need a few hours of sleep. Please respect what I asked of you yesterday and let me sleep, man. She was in shock and said okay then. She took the kids and I slept until 4 p.m. There were several messages from her saying that I shouldn't have yelled at her for asking me to take responsibility as a parent and that it was toxic behavior of mine. Well, we haven't talked much more than necessary for 2 days. Am I the asshole? My ex-husband and I have custody of our 11-year-old son. He's diabetic and since his diagnosis is relatively new, we're still working on managing things for him so he could continue to live a normal life just like other kids. his stepdad is responsible for dropping him off/picking him up from school since his step-siblings attend the same school. The issue began when my son started asking me or his bio dad to take him to school instead of his stepdad. He said that the reason for that is because his step-siblings open his lunchbox and take all the additional snacks that he needs in case he had a hypoglycemic episode. That's what we call low blood sugar. His step-siblings would take his lunchbox from him and take the snacks and only leave him his sandwich and water. His stepdad thinks there's nothing wrong with sharing, although I explained to him about a millionth times how important his snacks are. He promised that he won't let his kids touch my son's lunchbox from now on, and I believed him. Days ago, my son came home and told me his step-siblings took his snacks from his lunchbox again. I was enraged. I asked if his stepdad saw them. He said yes, and he scolded him when he refused to let them have the snacks. I lost it. I blew up at my husband and told him that my son won't be riding in his car again with his step-siblings after what they'd done and after he allowed it. I told him that my son's father will be driving him to and from school from now on. He lashed at me saying that I was driving a wedge between the kids and teaching my son to grow up being selfish and self-centered and antisocial. And also making my son distant from him and getting him to favor his bio dad. I refused to discuss it now. He's acting all hurt and disrespected, saying it was not worth ruining the kids' relationship over some snacks. Is this normal? My sister never wanted to get married. She just doesn't like marriage. Nothing wrong with that, but she still wanted to have kids. So she had a baby with her long-term boyfriend. Well, her boyfriend doesn't help her do shit. He doesn't work. He gets disability. His issue has long since resolved, but he still collects somehow, so he pays for some bills, but not much. He doesn't help with housework, and he barely helps with their now 1.5-year-old. He just plays video games all day. I've seen it when I come over to babysit. My sister works from home, so she will be on a wireless headset having a conference call with the baby on her hip while she's cleaning the kitchen, and her boyfriend will be playing video games in the living room. And that's the situation every time I come over, and my sister tells me that's what it's always like. I work full-time as a nurse, so I come over to help when I can, but I also work third shift and my sister lives almost 2 hours away, so it's hard for me to help a lot. She's gotten mad at me several times for not helping babysit enough. I had a 2-week vacation last winter and she got mad at me for not babysitting a whole lot while I was on vacation. I want to help cause I love her and my niece, but I work a lot too and the drive is long and I'm just tired a lot. Well, 2 weeks ago we were talking and she told me that she and her boyfriend were going to try for another baby soon, and if things work out they were hoping to have another baby by next Thanksgiving. I said to her, are you sure it's a good idea to have a second baby when your boyfriend barely helps you with the first one? It just blurted out of my mouth. She got all defensive and tried to tell me that he does help some, but I reminded her that she tells me all the time how he doesn't help. And I've seen for myself how he just plays video games while she does everything. She got really mad and said, well, maybe if you helped more then it wouldn't seem like everything is on my shoulders. After some back and forth arguing I got up and left. She told our mom what I said and our mom got all mad at me saying I was an asshole for upsetting my sister, and my brother got on me about it too. I don't think I was an asshole though. I'm not so sure at this point. My son and daughter, both in early teens, have a reasonably good relationship with each other, and me, I hope. A few days back, Jay had her period and accidentally stained her bed sheets. She was quite embarrassed, seeing the dirty sheets in the wash early. We normally change and wash all our sheets together. Kay was curious, and when I explained it to him, he said loudly, and in Jay's hearing, oh my God, that's really disgusting. Jay hid in her room for the next few hours, and it was obvious at dinner she'd been crying. I took some time to speak with each of my children alone. With Jay, I emphasized that periods were natural and, especially in early puberty, your flow can be pretty inconsistent. It was mostly just helping her come to the realization that it wasn't her fault. With Kay, after some uncomfortable conversation, I was given to know that he believed that it was possible to hold in periods and therefore that she was really doing it for attention. I gently but firmly corrected his misapprehensions and explained how bad he made his sister feel for something that was totally out of her control. I felt overall that the message had been delivered and absorbed, because he was quite down for a while, and I suspect, but didn't verify, that he apologized to her later, because they seemed fine after. When my wife got back, she was away for a few days. She was mad and felt that I should have been much harsher with Kay so that he would learn the consequences of his actions, and forced him to apologize immediately. My wife thinks that he should be punished regardless, because his actions directly hurt his sister, who is definitely an innocent party. On the other hand, I don't think yelling at anyone solves any problems, and I felt it wasn't fair to blame my son for the deficiencies of the sex education curriculum, since he acted out of ignorance and not a willful lack of empathy. Am I in the bad here? I read medical records for a living, including imaging, physical therapy notes, neurologist visits, etc. I work side by side with doctors and psychiatrists, and have for 13 years. I have a friend whose wife suddenly became disabled by back pain, 3 months after he married her. One day she was active and happy, the next day she was totally debilitated and spends most of each day in bed. She did not suffer an injury. Background: his last wife became disabled and he supported her for years. Wife number 2 knows this. I asked to see her imaging and was surprised at what I saw. I told her, "This doesn't explain your pain." In his reports, her doctor described her as having a heightened response to pain and said there was nothing more he could do for her. My friend's life is ruined. She can't work, he can't support them both on his retirement benefits, so he's had to go back to work. At home, he has to massage her and comfort her and do all the housework, shopping, etc. He has no time to himself. Can't leave her unattended, and can't bring her with him. She has no insurance, but she's covered by his, now that they're married. He pays all the co-pays. Even before this, she said she couldn't work because of COVID, because of age discrimination, because there were no jobs that fit her skill set, because jobs she was overqualified for paid too little, etc. She talked about how she couldn't work in every conversation I had with her. I've tried asking him leading questions like, has her doctor discussed anxiety's impact on pain, and what's her doctor's plan? Surgery? No. Physical therapy? Didn't help. Opiates? She won't take them. NSAIDs? She can't take them. TENS unit? Didn't help. Acupuncture? Didn't help. His answer: they don't know what's causing the pain, so they don't know what to do. This is code for, the etiology's not physical. If there's a possible physical reason for the pain, a doctor will explain and address it. I've told him that in all my years, I've never seen this level of suffering from a benign condition like hers. I keep hoping he'll put the pieces together. She needs counseling. She needs to see a pain specialist. She's got a host of psychological problems. Depression and bulimia are two, she'll admit. She appears to have features of a personality disorder or two. She has no friends and her family barely speaks to her. This is a psychological issue. I can sit my friend down and explain what the imaging and exams mean, including dermatomes and objective signs of impairment like reflexes, impingement tests, strength tests and EMGs. Should I? He's a very smart man. He seems to be almost willfully obtuse about this. Maybe he's not ready to know, doesn't want to know. Maybe I should stay out of it. I grew up with 6 siblings, all of us fairly close in age. Someone was always talking and someone else was always interrupting, which I grew to hate. I started deciding that if someone interrupted me multiple times, I would not finish what I was saying. This meant a lot of stories, jokes, and pieces of information went unfinished. I have continued this policy into my adult life. My husband hates it. It does usually end the conversation when I do this, but I think it's only fair. I do try to be mindful. And I kind of have a set of conditions, so I don't always refuse to finish. These are the conditions. Obviously these are really just in my head. This is at least the second time the same person has interrupted me in this conversation. None of the interruptions were obvious mistakes. If I paused and you said something because you thought I was done, that's not interrupting, Imo. None of the interruptions were urgent/emergencies. Some information is worth interrupting. Statements that show you are listening don't count as interrupting. Even if you're talking at the same time as me, statements or questions about what I am saying are not interruptions, unless you're being deliberately and obviously obtuse/condescending. My husband thinks I am making a big deal out of a small thing, but I feel it's disrespectful and I make every effort to not interrupt others. Am I the asshole? My ex-husband and I have custody of our 11-year-old son. He's diabetic, and since his diagnosis is relatively new, we're still working on managing things for him so he could continue to live a normal life just like other kids. His stepdad is responsible for dropping him off/picking him up from school since his step-siblings attend the same school. The issue began when my son started asking me or his bio dad to take him to school instead of his stepdad. He said that the reason for that is because his step-siblings open his lunchbox and take all the additional snacks that he needs in case he had a hypoglycemic episode. That's what we call low blood sugar. His step-siblings would take his lunchbox from him and take the snacks and only leave him his sandwich and water. His stepdad thinks there's nothing wrong with sharing, although I explained to him about a millionth times how important his snacks are. He promised that he won't let his kids touch my son's lunchbox from now on, and I believed him. Days ago, my son came home and told me his step-siblings took his snacks from his lunchbox again. I was enraged. I asked if his stepdad saw them. He said yes, and he scolded him when he refused to let them have the snacks. I lost it. I blew up at my husband and told him that my son won't be riding in his car again with his step-siblings after what they'd done and after he allowed it. I told him that my son's father will be driving him to and from school from now on. He lashed at me saying that I was driving a wedge between the kids and teaching my son to grow up being selfish and self-centered and antisocial. And also making my son distant from him and getting him to favor his bio dad. I refused to discuss it now. He's acting all hurt and disrespected, saying it was not worth ruining the kids' relationship over some snacks. Is this normal?